Dawn light filtered through the corporate tower's glass walls. A young woman knelt before the executive vault, everyone's eyes on her small hands working the combination lock. 3 clicks. The door opened. The entire security team fell silent as the CEO walked over and asked, "Who trained you?" She simply pulled out a worn leather toolkit. "My father. Master locksmith for 40 years. Type Legacy Lives if you believe skill transcends generations." Maya Torres was 24 years old, slender with her dark hair pulled back in a simple bun, arriving at Sterling Financial Tower as part of the janitorial night crew. She didn't talk much, didn't join break room conversations, spending her spare moments examining door mechanisms and lock assemblies with the focused attention of someone who'd been doing it for years. What her fellow cleaners didn't know was that Maya had grown up in the maintenance tunnels and back corridors of a dozen buildings across the city. Her father, Roberto Torres, had been a master locksmith, the kind corporations called at 3 a.m. when executives were locked out of critical files and time meant millions. Every night after school, he'd brought Maya to work, teaching her to feel the subtle clicks of tumblers, to understand the logic of security systems, to see locks not as barriers, but as mechanical puzzles waiting to be solved. One evening, when a panicked junior executive was locked out of a conference room minutes before a crucial video call with overseas investors, Maya quietly mentioned she might be able to help. The security supervisor, Derek, burst out laughing. "Little girl, this isn't a gym locker. This is a $4,000 electronic security system." Another security guard added with a smirk, "Probably just here because maintenance companies need to fill diversity quotas." Maya didn't respond. She simply pulled out a small leather toolkit, worn smooth from decades of use, and began examining the lock mechanism with the careful attention her father had taught her. The kit was older than she was, but maintained with the precision of someone who understood that tools were an extension of skill, not just objects. During her breaks, she would sit alone and sketch lock mechanisms in a notebook, left-handed, detailed diagrams showing pin configurations and tumbler sequences. It was a habit she developed during those nights, shadowing her father through corporate towers, learning to see security systems as languages to be read rather than obstacles to overcome. The other janitors saw her as odd, too quiet, too focused on equipment she supposedly had no business understanding. They whispered that she was probably just marking time until she found something better, that she'd wash out once the real work started. But Maya carried herself with a stillness that spoke of deep training. Her movements were economical, precise, never wasted. When she handled keys during routine door checks, her muscle memory was flawless, reading manufacturer marks, identifying key types, noting security levels automatically while others fumbled with basic identification. The security team saw a small, quiet woman who cleaned floors. What they missed was how she instinctively cataloged access points, how her eyes tracked security camera blind spots, how she positioned her cleaning cart to always have visibility of main corridors and emergency exits. These weren't conscious decisions. They were ingrained responses from a childhood spent learning from one of the city's most respected security professionals. But prejudice has a way of blinding people to expertise. And Maya was about to learn that proving herself would require more than just skill. It would require the courage to act when everyone expected her to stay invisible. During a routine security audit, Maya quietly mentioned to the facilities manager that the executive floor's card reader system had a vulnerability. The backup mechanical override hadn't been serviced in years and could fail during an emergency. Her observation was dismissed immediately by Derek, who barely looked up from his tablet. "You're here to empty trash cans, not assess security systems. Stick to what you were hired for." The dismissal stung, but Maya had learned from her father never to argue with authority in front of others. Instead, she was reassigned to clean the underground parking garage, a task meant to keep her busy and out of sight of important people. That night, scrubbing oil stains in the parking structure, she overheard a security guard telling his partner, "Anne should have stayed in school instead of playing pretend in our building." The next day, Maya attempted to report a potential security flaw she'd noticed. Several executive office locks used outdated wafer tumbler systems that could be bypassed with basic tools. Her written report was rejected within hours. Unqualified personnel submitting technical assessments outside their scope of work came the official response. Then disaster struck. On a Friday evening, as most employees were leaving for the weekend, the CEO, Margaret Chen, a formidable woman who'd built Sterling Financial from a startup to a billion-dollar firm, was accidentally locked in the executive vault. The vault, a climate-controlled secure room where the company's most sensitive documents were stored, had a biometric entry system that had malfunctioned, trapping Chen inside with the backup manual override, the exact system Maya had warned about, was jammed, and panic erupted on the executive floor. The electronic override codes weren't working. The mechanical backup mechanism was frozen. Chen had been inside for 30 minutes, and security protocols meant the vault's air circulation was minimal to prevent unauthorized ventilation access. And Derek called the lock manufacturer. 4 hours minimum, came the response. Maybe 6 in Friday evening traffic. Maya had been cleaning executive washrooms when she heard the commotion. She immediately understood what had happened. She'd examined that vault mechanism during routine cleaning 3 weeks ago and noticed the backup override showing signs of internal corrosion. She quickly approached the facilities manager. "I can open that vault." Derek nearly dropped his radio. You? You clean floors. This is a military-grade security vault worth $500,000, I know. My father installed the original system 12 years ago. I grew up learning every generation of this manufacturer's designs. Absolutely not, Derek said firmly. We're not letting some janitor with a toolkit risk a $500,000 vault and potentially kill our CEO. But the facilities manager, Shames Rodriguez, an older man who'd worked his way up from maintenance himself, studied Maya carefully. "Roberto Torres was your father?" "Yes." His expression changed. "Roberto Torres was the best locksmith in this city. Corporations paid him $10,000 per call." "If she's his daughter." "She's a janitor," Derek protested. "Her father was a master," Rodriguez said firmly. "And if she says she can open it, I believe her." Margaret Chen's assistant, practically in tears, grabbed Maya's arm. "Please, she has a heart condition." "If she's stressed in there too long." Maya knelt before the vault, her small toolkit laid out with the precision of a surgeon's instruments. The entire security team watched skeptically as she examined the mechanism, her fingers tracing the lock housing with the gentle touch of someone reading Braille. "The backup override has internal corrosion on the third tumbler," she said quietly, more to herself than the audience. "Standard water damage pattern from the building's humidity fluctuation 3 months ago." "How could you possibly know that?" Derek demanded. "Because I check every lock in this building during my rounds. It's what my father taught me. Maintenance prevents emergencies." She selected tools from her kit with practiced ease, each one worn smooth from her father's decades of use. The watching security personnel saw outdated equipment. Maya saw instruments calibrated to perfection, each one teaching her hands through muscle memory exactly what pressure to apply, what angle to hold, what sound to listen for. She worked in absolute silence, her breathing steady, her movements economical. This wasn't trial and error. This was the application of knowledge built over thousands of hours, watching her father work, learning the language of locks, understanding that every security system was simply a conversation waiting to happen between mechanism and someone who knew how to listen. First click. The bypass tumbler releasing, Derek leaned forward despite himself, watching her fingers work with precision he'd never seen. Second click. The intermediate safety engaging properly. Impossible. Breathed one security guard. "That vault has a randomized sequence." "No," Maya said softly. "Still working." "It has a logic. Every lock has a logic. You just have to be patient enough to learn its language." Third click. The vault door's internal mechanism released with a heavy mechanical sound. Maya stood, turned the handle, and pulled the heavy door open. And Margaret Chen emerged, shaken but unharmed, taking in the sight of her rescuer, the young woman in a janitor's uniform who just accomplished what her expensive security team couldn't. "Who trained you?" Chen asked, her CEO's instinct immediately recognizing extraordinary competence when she saw it. And Maya reached into her pocket and produced a worn business card. "Roberto Torres, Master Locksmith. with a phone number that no longer worked because her father had died 3 years ago from a heart attack while teaching a workshop on advanced security systems to corporate clients. And Chen studied the card, then looked directly at Maya. "Your father saved this company once. 12 years ago, our original vault system failed during a federal audit. Roberto Torres fixed it in 30 minutes when everyone else said it would take days. Today, his daughter saved my life." James Rodriguez stepped forward. "Roberto trained her, ma'am. I watched him work with her when she was just a kid. He was the best in the business." "Then why?" Chen asked, her voice dangerous. "Is she cleaning floors?" Silence. Derek started to speak, stopped, started again. "Ma'am, we thought, we didn't know." "You didn't ask," Chen said coldly. She turned to Maya. "My office. Monday morning, 8 a.m. That weekend, word of the janitor who opened the vault spread through Sterling Financial's employee networks. By Monday, everyone knew that the quiet woman they'd ignored for months was the daughter of a legendary locksmith. Derek approached Maya Monday morning before her meeting with Chen. The condescension was gone, replaced by uncomfortable respect. "That technique you used on the vault, could you teach the security team?" One by one, the people who dismissed her began seeking her expertise. Not for social media clout or office gossip, but for real knowledge. They wanted to understand how she could assess lock quality by touch, how she knew which security systems were vulnerable, how she maintained such steady hands under life-or-death pressure. The security guard who joked about diversity quotas found himself sitting quietly beside her as she demonstrated proper key management protocols, watching the methodical approach that turned routine maintenance into craft. He didn't apologize with words. His respectful attention said everything necessary. In Chen's office that Monday, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Maya sat across from the CEO, who'd nearly died in her own vault. "I pulled your resume," Chen said. "High school diploma, no college, no certifications. But I also pulled your father's client list. He worked for senators, banks, museums. He had security clearance for federal buildings." "Yes, ma'am." "Why janitor work? With your skills, you could have been making 6 figures as a locksmith." Maya looked down at her father's toolkit, still sitting in her lap. "After my father died, the companies he worked for didn't want to hire his daughter. No formal training, they said. No certifications. Just a girl who'd watched her father work. So you took the only job you could get. I took the job that kept me near the work I love, even if it meant cleaning floors." Chen was silent for a long moment. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Physical Security. You'll oversee all building access systems, train security personnel, and assess vulnerabilities across all our properties. And starting salary is $120,000. Full benefits, company car." And Maya blinked. "Ma'am, I don't have—" "You have something better than certifications. You have mastery, the kind that takes decades to develop and can't be taught in a classroom." Chen leaned forward. "Your father built a reputation on expertise and integrity. I'm betting his daughter inherited both." Within weeks, Maya had revolutionized Sterling Financial security protocols. The outdated wafer tumbler locks she'd warned about were replaced. The humidity issues affecting vault mechanisms were corrected. And staff training programs were implemented teaching everyone, from executives to janitorial staff, basic security awareness. During her first company-wide security briefing, Maya stood before 300 employees, many who'd walked past her cleaning carts without a glance just months before. "Security isn't about having the most expensive systems," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent conference center. "It's about understanding that every door, every lock, every access point tells a story. And my father taught me that the best security professional is the one who listens to what the building is trying to say." The applause that followed wasn't polite corporate courtesy. It was genuine respect from people who'd learned to see past their assumptions about what expertise looks like. After the briefing, a young woman from the mailroom approached nervously. "Miss Torres, I've always been interested in security work, but everyone says I should stick to my current job, that it's too technical for someone like me." Maya handed her a basic lock-picking training set. Thursday evening, 6 p.m., security training room. Wear something you don't mind getting dirty. Sometimes the most important skills are taught by people who never stopped believing you could learn them. Some skills pass down, not through schools, but through patience, through trust, through countless hours of a father teaching his daughter to see the world differently. Maya never needed to announce her expertise. Every lock she opened, every system she assessed, told her father's story without words. She didn't try to prove herself to those who doubted her. She simply preserved knowledge that deserved remembering and passed it forward to the next generation, ready to learn that assumptions are the weakest form of security. In a world obsessed with credentials and formal certifications, Maya represented something different: inherited mastery, patient teaching, and the understanding that true expertise speaks for itself through actions, not announcements. Her father had taught her that the most dangerous vulnerabilities are often the ones everyone assumes aren't there: the ignored, the dismissed, the underestimated. The lesson wasn't just about locks and security systems. It was about recognizing that competence comes in unexpected forms, that prejudice blinds us to talent standing right in front of us, and that sometimes the smallest voice carries the most valuable knowledge. Legacy isn't about monuments or certificates. It's about someone caring enough to teach, and someone else caring enough to learn, preserve, and honor what was passed down. N-type, never underestimate her if you believe silence has power.